Hello everyone, if you clicked in this video, you most likely have to replace your oil pedestal O-rings because you're leaking oil. Now what happened to me was I noticed that I had a lot of oil spots and they were pretty big, they were about a $50 size, and I tracked it to the oil filter location. So I originally thought that maybe there was two oil filter gaskets, and when I checked that wasn't the case. And then I started doing some research and I found out that the oil filter pedestal has two O-rings, and these O-rings get hard, and once they get hard, you have to replace them. But there isn't a YouTube video for the FD. There's one for the FC, and it's actually a little bit more intricate for the FD, and that's because you have a banjo boat, and we're gonna talk about that here in a bit. So I picked up my new parts from Atkins Rotary. Now I'm not sponsored, but they do a great job and they've always come through for me. And we're gonna show you the O-rings real quickly so you guys could see them. So they look like your traditional O-rings, but now I'm gonna show you the ones that I removed from my car. And these were the ones that were leaking, right? First off, they're flat. And you can't see it, but they look almost like a crush washer versus an O-ring. And they are super hard. Check this out, guys. It just kind of cracked in half. So I could tell you already that when I replaced these, this is an extra set that I have, it stopped the oil leak. So first off, O-rings, very important. Make sure you buy the OEM ones. But now we have to tell you something to save you some big time trouble. So when I went to go remove my oil pedestal, which we'll talk here more in a bit, there's two bolts underneath it that are held on by two nuts, and they're 10 millimeters. And what I thought was if you loosen those and remove those nuts, that you could simply just move it over with the banjo bolt attached. But that wasn't the case. As a matter of fact, there wasn't any movement. So I put down the pedestal and I tried to remove this bolt. And this was one of the hardest bolts I ever had to take off from an engine bay. So I had my strut tower off. I actually removed this bracket from the strut tower. And what I did is I used a breaker bar and I was trying to loosen that banjo bolt and it wasn't coming loose. So then I attached an additional breaker bar to it, or a big old bar, and I was able to break it loose. But I could tell you that that banjo boat at least had, I don't know, it took about, I would say 100 to 120 foot-pounds of torque at least to break it loose. So when I got it loose, I realized right away that I didn't have some extra crush washers, and they actually take some special diameter ones. So you're definitely gonna wanna order some when you do this job. But when I removed it and I put everything back together, the actual oil line was a little bent, so it wouldn't seal properly. Now that caused me some serious issues, because when I went to go start the car, when I finished everything and I backed out, there was oil everywhere. So I'm definitely gonna recommend that you leave the nuts installed. Don't loosen them up. You wanna make sure that this is installed and it's tight when you go remove this banjo bolt. This sucker is really torqued down, and I think over time it's just gotten locked in there. I read a lot in the forums that people had a hard time taking these off. So my thing is, if you're able to take it off without bending the line or damaging the pedestal or doing any of that, you're gonna be lucky. But if you do, just make sure that when you reconnect the banjo bolt and you use the proper torque specifications, that the banjo bolt is actually sitting against everything perfectly so you don't have any leaks. In order for you to remove the oil pedestal, you will need a 10 millimeter stubby. You will need this like for a fact, 100%. I ordered two. I actually got one from Amazon and I bought one from Harbor Freight. As a matter of fact, in Harbor Freight, we bought like a whole set of stubbies for like 16 bucks. And I think the one on Amazon was like $5 for one, and it came in, Amazon shipping. But you're gonna need a stubby. And the reason why is that one of the nuts, you can't reach it with the exception of a stubby. It's the only tool you could use. And what you have to do is essentially you have to go up, and you're only gonna be able to do maybe, I don't know, a small, I would say from 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock. It's gonna take some time, but once you loosen a knot, you're able to take it off pretty easy, and then you're gonna be able to remove this. Once you have the banjo bolt off, and once you have those two nuts off, you're gonna be able to take this off, and then we're gonna show you what you do with the O-rings. I like to put a little bit of oil on them, and then all you do is you simply just stick them on there, and they actually fit on there pretty nicely. As a matter of fact, I'll show you real quickly. Look at that. I can move this all day. I could do that, and they stay in there really well. At that point in time, you're gonna just install everything in reverse order. And as far as these nuts go, you really can't get a torque wrench in there, so you're just gonna tighten them up. But I recommend that you tighten a few turns and then switch to the other side. Because if you tighten down one side and then you try to tighten the other side, it's gonna be crooked. So you always wanna tighten something down evenly. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And do that until they both mate in the surface evenly, and then you could tighten them down completely. And that's it, guys. I hope you found these tips helpful. When you do your job, trust me, you're gonna thank me. The best way you can thank me is pressing the like button, sharing it with your fellow RX-7 friends, and also following us along and subscribing and following us with our next awesome videos that we have for the RX-7 or our other cars here at Drivers Therapy. Thank you for watching. We appreciate it. You take care, stay safe, and we'll talk to you soon.